Hi everyone, I'm Terralon. Welcome to Time Out with Tinseltown Mom. On this episode, I'm going to be speaking with Jenny Tesler, whose daughter Magnolia, also known as Maggie, was diagnosed with Rett Syndrome at the age of 3. Rett Syndrome is a rare and debilitating neurological disorder where children develop, then regress. She and her husband AJ documented Maggie's story in a new film, Magnolia's Hope. Today we're going to talk about that film, plus this brave family's journey. Hi, Jenny. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so glad to have you here to tell your story. I literally just finished watching the documentary, so I'm very happy to have you on so you can just talk about your journey further with us.
Well, I hope this isn't too emotional then.
I was thinking the same thing. I was getting emotional just watching the film, so I can only imagine from your point of view.
Yeah, it's not an easy watch. I mean, obviously we live it, but we're also aware to watch it brings a lot of awareness and advocacy. So that's the reason we do it.
Right. So why don't we just start by you just telling us a little bit about you and your family dynamic?
Okay, great. I am married to my husband, AJ Tesler, and we have 2 kids. Magnolia, also known as Maggie, or Mags. I may say any one of those names when referencing her. She is 10 years old. We also have a son, Graydon, who is going to be turning 5 years old. And we live in Los Angeles.
Okay, wonderful. So your daughter Maggie is 10 now. And I know in the documentary, you document the first 8 years of her life. Is that correct?
I believe in the documentary, she is throughout most of it between 3 and 6 years old.
Okay. So why don't we just start from the beginning, just so people can kind of learn more about Rett syndrome. I mean, I just recently learned about it just from your documentary. But why don't we just start from the beginning, just telling us from your point of view, and I guess layman's terms, like what this is.
What is Rett syndrome?
Yes.
Okay. Rett syndrome is a rare neurological disorder. It affects 350,000 people in the world. It affects mostly girls, and that is because it affects genetically the X gene, and girls have XX and boys have XY. There are boys with Rett syndrome, but it's usually more severe or fatal. For girls and boys, it's a severe disability. It's progressive. It is known as the use it or lose it disorder, because if you don't use a skill, you lose it. So for us, Magnolia was gaining skills and then stopped and started losing skills. And for others, their children never even gain the skills. So it's a spectrum of a disorder, but no matter where you are on the spectrum of this disorder, it's very debilitating.
Right.
They call it a rare disorder. It's a world that I had never thought I would be a part of, or strangely never really knew about. But here we are in this world of rare disease and Rett syndrome, which, by the way, I also did not know about before Maggie was diagnosed. The doctor had to tell us, this is what your daughter has. She has Rett syndrome. Don't Google it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, she had so little information on the disorder. And she was a developmental pediatrician and had only had 2 cases in her career come through her office. Yes. So she really couldn't help us at all. She tried to give us some guidance, but that was it. That's the last time we saw her, was 7 years ago when she gave us the diagnosis.
So let's go back to Maggie, just, talking about her journey. How old was she when you noticed that maybe something just wasn't quite right with her?
She started crawling and doing army crawling, and she just seemed a little bit behind in skills than her peers. I was in a mommy class, a baby class, and I would, all of a sudden I started noticing around 11 months that she was playing, but she wasn't fully doing everything that other kids were doing. But at the same time, she would start doing it, a month or so later. So it felt like it was in my head. And then at about 16 to 18 months, more symptoms started arising that nobody really understood. She had a hard time falling asleep, and she would kind of roll around and bang her body in the crib. And so I would just kind of hold her there until she calmed down and fell asleep. And she started having a hard time, like, not walking, but like her crawling, like she hadn't started walking. So we started therapy around that time, and quickly she learned the skill to walk. And that was kind of around 16 to 18 months, things really started to look different for us. And that's when our pediatrician first said, you need to see, a specialist, a developmental pediatrician. And it wasn't until she turned 3 that she got diagnosed. So for that year from 2 to 3, various symptoms would arise, but then they would go away. And it would look like she would lose a skill or she would lose words. And that was kind of a trigger that something was going on, obviously. But then she would regain them, and she would start talking more. And right around 3, she started having GI issues. And that's when the doctor ran the tests she ran the gambit of tests, and it came back Rett syndrome. So it was, a year of knowing something's going on, but with everybody telling us it was going to be okay.
Right. And this was a genetic doctor that ran the test?
Yes. So she was a developmental pediatrician, and she ran a genetic test. Yes.
Okay. From the documentary, it looks like you guys are so hands-on with Maggie. I believe your husband said he even quit his job, right?
Yes.
When you first were diagnosed. Yeah. So what type of therapy is she having today at 10 years old? Because I know just from the film, like, she had several different therapies that she was undergoing, right?
Yes. So from the time she was 3, when she got diagnosed, we ramped it up a little bit. And she's had PT, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, horse therapy. I believe that's it.
Did you say
Multiple
swimming?
times.
I remember she was swimming too. I don't know if that was
swimming.
Okay.
Yes.
See, I was watching. I remember that one.
Yes. So she has been doing that the last 7 years. Now within COVID, she is doing almost all of those therapies except for horse therapy, because we do not have a horse. And we do all of her therapies via teletherapy.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
Thankfully, we're still with the same therapists, and so they know her very well. She's been with them a long time, and we're able to continue the therapies that way.
Right. Now, is she able to obtain her skills, like talking or just communication? I think from the film, I forgot which type of communication you guys tried that was actually working for her. Like, what type of communication is happening right now for her?
Okay. Well, I'll start with first, she did speak. She did lose all of her language. Mm-hmm. And that was around 3.5. She ended up losing all of her words. And then we found this woman who travels around and educates parents and educates educators on how to use this device that's called the eye gaze technology device. She came to our house. Her name is Susan Norwell, and she came to our house and immediately took to Maggie, and right away, within moments, was able to tell us, like, she has been communicating with you. She is communicating with you. She has a way to say yes and no without words. When she looks at you, it's yes. When she looks away, it's no. And we didn't even realize that she was doing that. Like, we would ask questions and she was within the conversation answering yes and no.
Wow.
So she just opened our world right there. So that was amazing. And then she had this eye gaze device with her, and she showed Maggie, and within minutes she was navigating and using it. And it's a laser that tracks her eyes, and she's able to navigate this computer. It's a highly difficult system, and she has been learning and using it for the last 5 years. I think we officially got one around 4.5, 5 years old.
Now, is it portable?
So it's portable. It's clunky. It's really heavy. We do have, actually just within the time that she's had Rett Syndrome, more have come out. There is like a Surface Pro with a eye gaze attachment that you can take around. With her disability and how her body works, she moves a lot. So she needs a bigger device to help her communicate. Mm-hmm. So yes, we do tote that around. So we always have her computer with us wherever we go.
Right. Now, and what about her walking? Is she currently walking?
She is currently walking. She's a fighter. She's gone through ebbs and flows. She has lost skills. She had a cold at one point, and because she was bedridden for like a week because she got really sick, she lost a lot of skills, including walking, and she fought her way back, regained the skill, and she works every day from the moment she gets up.
That's
to walk.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah. So she has really good days, and then she has really bad days. So each day is new. Mm-hmm. We always just hope for the best.
Oh, right. Yeah, I can imagine. So when did you first decide you were going to put her story in a documentary film?
A couple of years ago, I think it was in 2018, a couple of years ago, I was reading kind of a self-help book. And it's a book that was just like, get off your, butt, get going. You can do this. Mm-hmm. And whatever you think is possible is possible. And I read like the first chapter. And by the end of the chapter, I was like, we need to put all this footage that we have been gathering for her doctors and therapists, and my husband needs to make it into a documentary. So I went downstairs and I told him, I was like, look, let me pitch you an idea.
Yeah, he's a filmmaker, right? So
he's a filmmaker. And I was like, look, I know we haven't, because at that point we hadn't been recording as much footage. But I was like, I think that we put all of this in a documentary and have it out there. I think people need to know about it and really see our story. Like, we had been putting videos on YouTube and stuff like that and blogging. And I was like, but I really feel like a film format would serve our story better. And also people can see, like, there's highs and lows like everybody else's life. They just might be lower than most, but then the highs are just as good, Yeah. So I wanted to show, like, I wanted to normalize her disability and the way she lives and the way we have to live. And by the time I finished pitching him, I was obviously crying, and he was like, all right, I'll do it. We'll do it. And I think the next day he had hired an editor to go through all the footage. Like, he's really, on it.
Yeah. So he directed it. You're the producer on the film, right? Or one of the producers?
Yes.
Okay. So I understand that Maggie's also undergoing clinical trials, right, for Rett syndrome?
Yes, that was a big impetus for the film is we had finished a phase of a trial and we had ended up documenting a lot of the trial along the way. Um, and we were going to put like little short YouTube videos out. But at the time, Maggie was 6 years old and she had started having seizures and breathing issues, and it was really hard for her. And she actually asked us no more videos
Oh,
on her computer. Like we were recording, she was really upset, and we've, kind of figured out like, oh, it's because I'm recording you right now. And we always asked her, can we do this? And she navigated and told us not to do it. And so that's why we had stopped recording videos for so long. So we obviously asked her if we could do this as well. But at the time, so she had been through this clinical trial and we had all this footage that we didn't use. And here we were several years later and she was okay with it.
oh, that's good that you got her blessing for this.
Yeah, it's her story.
Mm-hmm.
We just try to, shine a positive light where we can, but also it's her life. Um, I really want her to be able to say, yeah, I said yes to that, or I said no to that. And we really try to, you know, advocate, how smart she is. We always have to, presume competence. Like kids that are nonverbal, people tend to assume that they don't have, this, cognitive ability. And that may be true for some, but, for a lot, that's not true. And she's one of those kids, and she's very smart and very aware. It's just her body doesn't work for her the way ours does.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you were undergoing the clinical trials, did you notice any improvement with her condition at all?
You know, um, that's a tough one. I really wanted to. I really wanted to. Being in the trial, we weren't able to find out if we were on, if not we, but if she was on the placebo or if she was on the drug.
Mm.
Um, and we did not really see any improvement. And so that was the heartbreaking part. But we also don't know if she was on the placebo or if the drug just didn't work for her.
Now, explain
So,
what you mean when you say on the placebo versus the drug. You mean like the
oh,
placebo effect that people think something's better, but it's not really better, or do you mean something different?
no, 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 that's what I mean. But so the trial was a double-blind trial. So the patient gets either a placebo, which is not the drug, or the drug. And it's a double-blind trial, as in the doctor doesn't even know what the patient is getting,
Mm.
and the parents don't know, and the patient doesn't know. Nobody knows. So that's how they can accurately find out if the drug is doing anything or if it's a placebo.
I see.
Um, and so to find out, we didn't want to be what am I looking to say? If we were to find out, then the possibility that we could do that trial in the next phase, I think it canceled us out. So we just opted not to find out if she was on the drug or not.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Always to keep, just to keep it open for her.
Yeah. Just going back to Maggie and just her development. Now, I know she's not in traditional school, but is she getting some form of education? Like, what does that look like for someone with her condition?
It's different for a lot of people, but most kids are, you know what, let me take that back. Um, she has been homeschooled most of her life, but because for her and her Rett syndrome, she has low immunity. So she is of that population that gets sick very quickly. And for some reason, the word's escaping me right now.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Um, so she is in that population. So if she gets a cold, it's amplified times 10, and she gets sicker and more symptoms arise and her symptoms get worse. That is not true for everybody, but it is for her. So she had been homeschooled until this year. And then she actually did go into, she was healthy enough at the beginning of 2019 to go into third grade. So she did. But then with COVID, she got pulled out and now she's homeschooled again. And she'll tell you that she is not happy about that.
Oh, that's great that she's able to tell you that, though.
Oh, yeah. The whole first month of COVID, she was like, not happy, not happy.
Yeah.
What is coronavirus? Not happy.
Right. Now, I'm a germaphobe myself. So since she, you have to be careful with her getting sick, like what are some measures that you have to take to, just make sure that she's not getting sick? I mean, I know we can only do so much, but do you do anything specific for her?
I think basically what's going on right now is what we have done since she was about 5 or 6 years old when it seemed like she had a low immunity. So, a lot of hand washing, just staying away from people that are sick. When her brother has gotten sick, we basically end up single parenting and quarantining part of the house so that she won't get sick.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, it's like COVID rules have been our rules for a while now.
Yeah, I feel like that about myself too. Like I've always been like this.
Right? Kind
Yeah.
of makes you feel like, why is everybody so gross?
Exactly. It's like, okay, you need to catch up to what I've been doing all along here with the germs.
Why weren't you washing your hands? I don't understand.
Yeah, or taking your shoes off when you come in.
Yes, I feel the same.
So speaking of her brother, Gray is his name, right? He's 5?
Yes, he's 5. Oh, he'll be 5 in February.
Okay. Now, how has he been processing all of this, just having a sister with special needs? I'm sure she's getting a lot of your attention.
It's just what he knows. That's how he's grown up, is that, we have to help Maggie a lot more. During harder times, we've kind of separated him from it. She's had seizures and some pretty massive ones that ended her up in the hospital the last few years. They were fairly uncontrollable. So we had to shield him from seeing a lot of stuff because we didn't want him to see at, 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, his sister seizing on the floor while we're trying to rescue her,
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of shield him from it. And by shielding, I mean, now as he's, getting older, it's harder to shield him because he's very aware. But when he was 2, just kind of, if she had a seizure, I would just kind of make sure that he physically wasn't watching. But, we just do the best we can. I think he has learned a lot of empathy. I think he has learned to help out a lot more. Honestly, for us as parents, we have to remind ourselves to show him a little bit more grace than we normally would, because if Maggie's having a hard week of breathing, she's usually crying more, and that affects him. And so if he's, acting out, and how a, 2, 3, 4-year-old acts out is in temper tantrums or, aggressiveness. And so we've had to learn to show him a little bit more grace and also read the room. Like, okay, a lot's going on with her. Let's try to separate what we can. That's all we can do. Maggie also has had an aide to help her out during the week with school and at our house. So from the time she was 3 years old until now, until COVID,
Yeah.
she had an aide during the week that helped her, assisted her. So if she was having a harder week, we were able to separate Gray by taking him to the park, or just getting him out. now with COVID, it's different. And honestly, I feel like he's grown so much during this time. And their relationship seems to be blossoming in a way that I didn't think that it would. Like he now like draws pictures for her and says, "You're my best friend, Maggie,"
Aw.
and he'll help her. He'll see that she doesn't have any hand function. And he'll see that she'll like tap on a glass because she's thirsty, but she can't lift the glass, and he'll grab it.
That is so sweet.
It's so sweet. I mean, at the same time, he's, a almost 5-year-old little boy, and he will try to wrestle her too. And
Oh,
she doesn't
yeah.
have, he'll run for full force, and we're just like, oh
Right.
no. So it's an interesting balance of letting him be who he is, but also, showing grace a little bit more than we probably would have.
Right. Now, what are some ways that your family just copes with, having a special needs child in the family? Do you have any practical ways that you do that? Maybe there's other families listening that you could help.
It comes in waves.
Yeah.
I don't want to lie. Like, we have gone through some really hard times, and there's a lot of grief involved. And obviously with our story, we try to spread like hope and joy, but keeping it real at the same time of what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a lot of grief with watching your child lose skills and have to fight to keep skills. And the disorder's progressive. So, she was a different kid at 3 than she was at 4, then she was at 5. Like each year, something else has come up. Since she was 6, she started having really bad seizures and really bad irregular breathing where she hyperventilates or holds her breath until she turns blue or passes out. And so it's hard because once we feel acclimated, something else comes up. I think at some point with Rett that does phase out, and I look forward to that happening. I mean, obviously I look forward even more to a treatment or a cure.
Yeah.
But, there has been grief. There's been a lot of joy, but it's more of waves of grief. For me personally, I do a lot of yoga. I have to find time for myself, and it really that's what's helped me. And I'm not saying that's what's going to help everybody, but me going to a hot yoga class, sweating it out and crying it out really, really helped. I think that every parent should look for community, if that's within their family or within their friends. But mostly, I think with a disorder like this, there's so much that happens. It actually weighs on everybody around us too, in ways that we didn't even realize. I think at one point my dad told me how much my mom cried about it, just because her heart hurt for us.
Yeah.
And for her grandchild. And the same thing with one of my best friends. Her husband talked about how my best friend, was crying on the ground when she found out. And so you realize, like, it's not just her affected, and it's not just us affected. It's everybody that loves and cares about us is affected as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the places that we have found the most amount of help to deal with it is within like the Rett community, the Rett Syndrome community, and special needs communities, finding parents that have really been through it to help with guidance or just, an ear to listen to, even if it's just online in a Facebook group. There's so much support out there. And we feel the same way. Like people message me all the time, and I'm always there to support, let them know I see you. I see your pain. And yes, I agree. It's hard, but you can do this.
Yeah. I mean, you're encouraging a lot of families. You are, like, even families that don't have special needs kids. I mean, you encouraged me when I watched it, just when my kids act up. I was thinking that I could do it, So
yeah.
You're
Good.
really,
Thank you.
no, really, yeah. So I mean, you're helping a lot of people, with the documentary and just your YouTube channel too.
Thank you. We hope so. Like, it's a whole world that we just didn't even realize that was out there. And, we're only better when everybody's included, and everybody can't be included if people don't know about their story or aren't aware of what that life is like. You can't walk in somebody else's footsteps all the time, so us speaking out about it helps people understand a little bit, a little glimpse into our lives.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much, Jenny, for being here today. Where can people find out more about you and your family, and also where can they stream the documentary?
Yes. Okay. Well, to stream the documentary, you can go to magnoliashopedoc.com, which is spelled out. That's a long spelling, but I'll do it.
I'll put it in the show notes. Okay,
magnoliashopedoc.com. Or you can follow our journey on Instagram or Facebook. You can find us under Magnolia's Hope, at Magnolia's Hope. We have a blog, magnoliashope.com. Everything Magnolia's Hope.
Yeah, you're making it easy. Yes.
Streamlining.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jenny. I really appreciate you speaking with me today.
I really appreciate you having me on, so thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Time Out with Tinseltown Mom. If you liked what you heard today, please be so kind and rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time.